And if he finds out who's been running this place for the last 9 years, there will be hell to pay.
Welcome back to Moose on the Loose. My name's David, and today Pierre Poilievre and Justin Trudeau go head-to-head in the House of Commons. Let's check this out. They're battling about fighting for the young people, fighting for that Canadian dream. This is Justin Trudeau's new angle because he knows all the young voters are not going to vote for him now. That was his last stronghold.
Who pays? That's right. Who pays for this latest $50 billion orgy of spending by this costly Prime Minister? We know it won't pay. It won't be those with trust funds that protect their millions of inheritance like the Prime Minister, nor the billionaires that invite him to their private Caribbean islands. They'll hide their money. You know who will pay? You will pay. You, the welder or waitress who can't pay your mortgage because he's inflated the mortgage rates. You will pay because he carbon taxed your food and now you can't feed your kids. Why should you pay for him?
Yeah. Shouldn't. Did not pay.
My comment still applies. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it is interesting to see the lengths to which the Leader of the Opposition will go to avoid saying that he is choosing to stand with the ultra-wealthy, against the middle class, against young Canadians. When we first got elected and raised taxes on the wealthiest 1% to lower them for the middle class, the Conservative Party and that leader voted against it. We're asking for the wealthiest in this country, the wealthiest 0.1%, to pay more in taxes so we can support the middle class, so we can restore the dream, particularly for young people, of home ownership, of a brighter future that the world is taking away from people all over the world.
Give it up, Trudeau, man.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister likes to blame the world for the problems that he caused. He doubled the debt, doubled the rent, doubled mortgage payments, doubled the needed down payment, and now he's doubling down on the same costly mistakes that have made life unaffordable for Canadians. When will this Prime Minister realize that he's not worth the cost and that repeating the same thing 9 times and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity?
Well said. Well said.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, what the Leader of the Opposition is saying is that he stands with the ultra-wealthy 0.1% in this country, and everyone else is on their own, because that's what he would do as he slashes programs, as he slashes investments, as he doesn't build the homes necessary, as he doesn't have a plan to fight climate change and create good jobs, as he has stood against affordability measures, as he stands against seniors getting dental care, Mr. Speaker. He is choosing to stand with the ultra-wealthy while we are investing in Canadians and building a stronger future that is fair for everyone.
There's that drama teacher Trudeau coming out.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, he is the ultra-wealthy. He hid his family fortune in a tax-sheltered trust fund so he wouldn't have to pay the same tax as everyone else. He vacations with the ultra-wealthy on their private islands in tax-preferred locations where they can hide their money and avoid paying their fair share here in Canada. And now he's paying off the ultra-wealthy by spending $54 billion on debt interest, more than on health care. Why give more money to the ultra-wealthy bankers and bondholders instead of the nurses and doctors?
Yeah. He's totally got him there. He walked into that.
Prime Minister.
Speaker, this is a budget that invests in fairness for every generation by asking the ultra-wealthy to pay a little more. And, Mr. Speaker, the Conservative Party is choosing to stand with the status quo, stand with the ultra-wealthy, instead of saying, yes, we need to invest in young people. We need to build more houses. We need to support seniors with dental care. We need to create more spaces in childcare. We need to deliver hundreds of dollars a month tax-free in a disability benefit. These are the things we will be doing. Those are the things that they stand against.
No one's buying it, Trudeau. All right, next up here we got Jagmeet doing his corporate greed rant as usual. It's all he does.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know what happens. Anytime I take on corporate greed, the Conservatives get really upset because we're taking on their masters, so they get upset about it. But I'll be careful not to say too much. 'Cause I know the Conservatives get so angry when we mention corporate greed. But what happens is young people are seeing they're getting ripped off with rent, they're getting ripped off with groceries, getting ripped off with the high cost of cell phone fees, and they know it's because of corporate greed. The Conservatives don't want me to talk about this, but will the Liberals take on corporate greed, which is driving up the cost of living?
That's all he's got to say.
Prime Minister.
Speaker, we recognize with this budget that Canada cannot be successful unless young people are successful, unless every generation sees a real and fair chance to succeed. That's why we're stepping up to invest in new homes that young people are going to be able to afford, in making sure that their rent payments count towards a credit score to get them a mortgage eventually. We're investing in more support for Canadians living with disabilities. We're investing in supports for seniors. We're investing in entrepreneurship for young people. We're making the kinds of investments that are going to grow the economy, support young people, and restore the dream of a stronger Canada for everyone.
Name one house that a young couple, a first-time home buyer can afford. There's zero. You can go to like some Timbuktu nowhere town and maybe find something, but then they won't have a job there. So unless it's a couple that both work remotely, some sort of digital online thing, and they go live in the middle of Timbuktu nowhere, they've got no chance. And then they would suffer probably emotionally, not having friends, activities, sports teams, all that kind of stuff nearby. There's not that many people who want to go live in the middle of nowhere by themselves.
I want you to know that the status quo is unacceptable. That Canada has become an unfair country where young people, an entire generation, cannot afford a home and families cannot afford food. And if he finds out who's been running this place for the last 9 years, there will be hell to pay. Will the Prime Minister complete his investigation and tell us who's been in charge for the last 9 years?
He just got destroyed, man. It's twice now. Is Trudeau getting obliterated?
Prime Minister.
When we first got elected, we raised taxes on the wealthy.
Sit down, Trudeau.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, when we got elected, first thing we did was raise taxes on the wealthiest 1% and lower them for the middle class, a measure that the Conservative Party voted against. We've continued to invest in young people, invest in standing up a national housing strategy after the previous government had completely ignored housing, and the former housing minister, who is now leader of the opposition, was responsible for creating exactly 6 affordable homes in his time as minister. We've continued to invest, and we're going to continue to make sure that the economy is fair for every generation, and that means asking the wealthiest to pay a little more so we can put more money in the pockets of the middle class.
Where does Trudeau come up with these numbers? They keep pushing this 6 number. Poilievre is responsible for 6 houses. They just make up whatever crap they want. They don't even care that they're caught lying all the time.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has got to stop getting his facts from his incompetent housing minister's Twitter account. Yeah. This is the same guy who, as immigration minister, lost track of 1 million people. When I was housing minister, we built 92,782 new apartment units with an average rent of $973. How many apartments will the Prime Minister build at the price of $972 a month this year?
He's getting destroyed, man.
Minister.
Speaker, our housing plan is the most ambitious and comprehensive in Canada's history, and will unlock close to 4 million homes by 2031. This happens because we're working with municipalities, we're working with provinces to increase the levels of ambition. We've put out the most comprehensive and ambitious housing plan this country has ever seen, because we know that making sure that young people can afford a home, making sure we change the way homes are built in this country, is about building a stronger future for everyone. everyone in this country. That's what fairness for every generation looks like. That's what this government is focused on, while they're focused on cuts.
Mr. Speaker, I'm going to build 4 million houses and bring in 10 million people. Because I know good math. FYI, if he's to build 4 million houses, that's like 2,200 houses that need to be built every single day. We don't have the builders to do this. This is so stupid. Like I mentioned in a previous video, we need to have it done by robotics. It needs to be like tiny houses. And I just should state here real quick, the reason why I was stating tiny houses is not because I want everyone in Canada to live in tiny houses. It's just the simple fact that if you were to say have a builder build one 4,000 square foot house, or they can build 5 or 6 tiny houses, you would have 5 or 6 times more homes. And really, this should be built in areas like near universities so they can eventually become focus on student housing after we get the housing crisis situation sorted out, and the bigger houses, the normal houses, get built, and there's enough of them for everyone to go around. So we have student housing or people who want to downsize to something smaller with those tiny houses. Either way, Trudeau's plan won't work. There isn't enough builders in Canada, and they're not bringing in enough builders to build these houses. They're not bringing in any builders. You can't just throw money at a problem and have them build themselves.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, we will cut the rent. When I was Minister of Housing, we paid half as much for rent in Canada that we pay today. And on that question of his ambitious housing plan, I decided to read all about it in their 2015 platform. They said, we will make it easier for Canadians to find an affordable place to call home. That was 9 years ago. Wow. They doubled the cost since that promise was made, and then they repeated the promise yesterday. Why do we expect the same promise with the same programs and the same Prime Minister to be kept this time?
Checkmate, man.
I was in Vancouver a few weeks ago to speak with young people about the fact that we're supporting renters with greater protections and making sure that the money they spend every month on rent actually gets counted in their credit score so they can help get a mortgage on into the future. Our housing plan will unlock 3.87 million new homes by cutting red tape, by reforming zoning, by lowering costs of home building, by using public lands and vacant government offices for housing. We're making it easier to save up for a tax-free for a down payment. We're helping end chronic homelessness and make homes more affordable. We're going to continue doing it.
He's choking his own bullcrap.
Oh, he's going to turn public buildings and land into housing. Wonder where we got that idea. Actually, it was, let me quote, we will conduct an inventory of all federal lands and buildings that could be repurposed and make some of these lands available at low cost for affordable housing. That is from his 2015 budget. And now, 9 years later, he can only point to 13 homes on those public lands. And yesterday, he promised a rapid review of all the federal land portfolios. Rapid review. How rapid? Another 9 years?
He is getting crushed. Pierre's just destroying him.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we made a choice. We made a choice to invest in Canadians, and that started when we took office because the previous government had not invested in Canadians, continued to choose cuts to services, continued to choose austerity over the kinds of investments that a confident country should be making in its citizens. And that's where we have stepped up, and that's where we are stepping up right now to make sure that young people have the opportunities to build a strong future themselves by asking the wealthiest 0.1% to pay more in taxes. Unfortunately, the Leader of the Opposition continues to stand with the ultra-wealthy while we stand with...
The Leader of the Opposition.
Named immigration for housing costs and the immigration minister who caused it all. Then he made that minister responsible for housing. Since that time, that minister has a $4 billion housing accelerator that he admits will not build any homes, no specific homes. And in fact, since it began, housing starts have gone down this year, and his housing agency says they'll go down next year and the year after that. How is it the Prime Minister can spend $4 billion on a housing accelerator that decelerates home building?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, I'm happy to talk about the Housing Accelerator because it stands in direct contrast with any plan that the Leader of the Opposition has put forward to pick fights with municipalities and provinces on housing. We're actually stepping up with investments that are allowing for more densification, for 4 units as of right, to make sure there's better use of public lands, including by municipalities and provinces, by making sure we're changing the math around building affordable homes to unlock millions of homes over the coming years.
It's so weak, man.
Leader of the Opposition.
Well, it was solved when rent was $973 a month, Mr. Speaker, until he came along. But more proof that he is not worth the cost after 9 years. He's blaming the whole world. If the world is to blame for the housing problems in Canada, then why is it that housing here is 50 to 75% more expensive than in the United States? Why is it that housing costs have risen faster than in any other G7 country relative to incomes? Why is it that we have the fewest homes per capita despite having the most land and the most lumber? Why? Is it him?
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite well knows that Canada's population is growing faster than our fellow countries around the world, and that is a good thing. It is a good thing that we continue to draw in people to be successful in this country. It is also extremely important that we recognize that even as the world is faced with challenges around inflation, disrupted supply chains, getting over the pandemic, conflicts and shifting geopolitics, Canada is actually on solider footing fiscally than any of our other G7 partners, with a lower debt to GDP ratio, a lower deficit, and a continued focus on creating the jobs and the future that Canadians need.
Something to note, the average house takes 150 trees to build. By having more immigration, we're having to build more houses, which is actually worse for climate change, for the carbon emissions, because we're getting rid of those trees. If we didn't have millions more people, we wouldn't be cutting down as many trees to build those houses. Something to think about.
Says that this is all about fairness. Well, we'll take him at his word and read the story of Emily, who told the Toronto Star that she could afford a home in 2015 with a mortgage $2,000. But after this Prime Minister's inflationary deficits ballooned mortgage rates, she lost her home, and now she rents a small apartment for $4,000 a month. So small, she says she can smell her own neighbors. Has the Prime Minister been fair to Emily?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, our economy can't succeed unless young people are successful, and that's why the focus in this budget is on fairness for every generation, which is why we are asking the wealthiest 0.1% to pay more in taxes to be able to support families like Emily's and others across the country that have lost the dream of home ownership because of the way the global economy is going, because of pressures that they're living. This is why we're continuing to step up.
Of course, he just knew he's going to blame the world for it.
The Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, that was exactly the promise he made 9 years ago. He said that Emily wouldn't have to pay any more, that some rich guy would pay. But since then, his trust fund hasn't paid any more taxes. The billionaires that host him on private islands, they don't pay any more taxes. They hide their money abroad. But Emily is paying. She's paying $4,000 a month for an apartment that is so small, she says she smells her neighbors. Is the Prime Minister treating Emily fairly?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservative solution for Emily is for governments to do less to support her, to do less to invest in childcare that she may or may not need for her kids, the support for her parents or grandparents who can go to the dentist now because of a Canada Dental program that the Conservatives have blocked, the investments that are going to actually support building more infrastructure in her community, whether it's public transit and, quite frankly, the investments that are going to ensure more apartment buildings, more affordable rentals, more affordable homes are being built. He wants to do less for Emily. We're doing more.
Doing more to hurt her.
Mr. Speaker, in 2015, Emily had a home with a mortgage payment of $2,000. Now she has an apartment with a rental payment of $4,000. How can he possibly suggest that she's better off paying twice as much to rent a place than she was under Conservatives owning one?
Checkmate, man.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
He's got nothing.
Speaker, how can the leader of the Conservative Party actually believe that doing less to invest in Emily's future is of help to her? He is standing here continuing to push for austerity and cuts to programs and cuts to the kinds of supports that, yes, Canadians need more than ever before, because the world is a much more challenging place, because he's still in the pockets of the ultra-wealthy instead of focusing on Canadians who need it.
Freeland's like, good answer.
South.
We know that he's never had to worry about making the rent. So my question for the Prime Minister is this: does he regret the bad decisions he's made that's got us into this mess?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, in 2017, we created the National Housing Strategy, which put millions of families into homes across the country. We've continued to step up with investments, including last year with the Housing Accelerator that has delivered increased densification and going to be building thousands upon thousands of homes over the coming years. And we're continuing to step up in this budget, which is focused on fairness for every generation, to make sure that young people can again see a pathway to home ownership, can be able to afford rents in the cities in which they work. These are things that we're continuing to do because Canadians need it.
That was quite the session there. It went back and forth, and Pierre just got him over and over. Just multiple gotcha moments. Trudeau's got nothing. He's lost his luster. He doesn't even, he's not even doing drama Trudeau. He's not even pulling it out with the full on shaking the hand and just that whole Trudeau that we all hate. He's lost it. Their budget sucks. Canada is in disrepair at this point. I worry what is going to be left of this country after these corrupt liberals are done ruining it. Thanks for watching to the end of the video here. Be sure to share your comments and thoughts on what's going on here, this back and forth. It feels good when Pierre gets those zingers in there, but when it comes down to it, we still got Trudeau in power. So we'll keep fighting for freedom. We'll keep exposing the truth. I'll see you guys in the next one.